We have talked, have we not, Hedvig, about subject-verb agreement in English and how tricky it is?
I still nominate a listener who's doing a BA thesis in linguistics to take the transcript of this podcast and study what causes me to get it right, because I'm interested in that. When do I do it right? Why is that?
Remind Dummy Ben of this linguistic phenomena.
It's when I need to remember to say they is versus they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you say the man eats food, you don't say the man eat food.
Gotcha.
But it's not as simple as that. So, Ben, tell me if the sentence sounds weird. The accuracy of the results are being questioned. The accuracy of the results are being questioned.
Not weird. Not
It
to me.
should be.
Oh, okay.
Because
Should be
it's the
weird.
accuracy, that's singular.
Okay.
Usually you can take out the prepositional phrase of the results.
Yeah, but it's the accuracy that's
okay.
being questioned.
But-
so-
accuracy.
Okay. Okay.
Let me
Keep
take
going.
out
Keep going. Yeah.
Let me take out the prepositional phrase of the results. I'll just do the accuracy are being questioned.
That's weird.
That's
That's
weird.
weird.
Yeah, for sure.
So that means the first sentence should have been weird as well. The accuracy of the results. Now, grammatically, the of the results part is not really relevant, so we take it out. It should agree with accuracy. The accuracy is being questioned, so it should be the accuracy of the results is being questioned, and yet somehow having that word results, that plural,
Mm,
exerts a magical
it does.
attraction.
There's a field. It's going womp 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 womp.
I'll do it the next sentence. President is singular, right?
Okay.
So the president has been shipped off on a rocket to Neptune. But check out this sentence. The president, along with a number of his associates, have been shipped off on a rocket to Neptune. Or has.
No, that
president-
still sounds okay to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the
These
problem.
are
This is
tricky
the
ones. These
problem.
are edge cases.
No, but there are a lot of these. There are a lot of these. Like what we did in the beginning where we said like they is, they are. I think I get that right most of the time. But I think a lot of native speakers of English have variation in this space and are moving, and
Yeah.
some varieties of English are moving more
This
than
does
others.
not. The ones that Daniel's presenting do not strike me as inherently bolted down at all.
Well, here's the funny thing. We analyze sentences structurally. Like when we're doing agreement, we have to figure it out structurally. But sentences aren't said structurally. They're said one word at a time. And if there's a plural just before our verb,
Yeah.
it might just
It's
cause
gonna fuck with our shit.
it's gonna
Like
fuck
it
with
is.
our shit. It's gonna mess up with our agreement. So this is agreement attraction. Okay,
Okay.
but that's in English. What about other languages? Turns out there are some languages that don't show agreement attraction like this.
Well, I would have assumed that's the case simply because non-English speakers struggle with it, right? Like as with ever you see someone from, say, a Latin background mixing up verb order or whatever, my presumption is like, oh, you must just be doing it your way.
Well, here's the funny thing. You can take sentences like the veracity of the results are being challenged. You can take a sentence like that would trip up an English speaker, and it trips up people in other languages too.
Okay.
Other languages also show attraction effects, but there are some languages that don't, and one of them is Czech. If you take some sentences that trip up English speakers or other speakers, and you give them to Czech speakers, translated to Czech, of course, it doesn't sound right to change it like it does for us. Doesn't
Okay.
happen.
So does that mean they
Hmm.
just use the same way for all of the things and they just don't alter it? Or
No, you have to be studying a language that also has some kind of agreement, but they
Okay.
just don't fall into the same traps like we do. But what happens when a Czech speaker is learning English? Do they resist agreement attraction, or do they fall into the same traps that we just did?
okay, so like is it just inherent, and when they encounter it, they too encounter problems, or because they were trained not to care about it, do they just continue not caring about it? Ooh, this is fun. What?
This is work from Jan Kromi of Charles University in Prague and a team, published in Bilingualism, Language, and Cognition. So the team first tested native Czech speakers on the kinds of sentences that tempts people into agreement attraction, and they found no effect in Czech. Okay. Then they said goodbye to all those Czech speakers, and they got a bunch more native Czech speakers who were learning English, got them to try reading and answering questions about sentences like, the file for the archivers likely was tightly sealed by the authorities.
Ooh.
Did that sound good? Remember, it's the file was. The file for the
can't-
archivers likely was.
That seems so deliberately obtuse that I can't even begin to penetrate what's supposed to happen there.
All right, then let's try it the other way. The file for the archivers likely were tightly sealed by the authorities.
That seems okay.
Sounds okay. They
Yeah.
tried it other ways too, like the files for the archiver likely was or were. They tried the files. The files for the archivers were, that one's were all the way down. So they tried different people on all of these sentences, all these combinations, and sure enough, when they tried the English version of the test, the Czech speakers did show attraction effects in English. The
Interesting.
sentences that sound good to us, even though they're structurally, you could argue, not correct, sounded great to them.
Okay.
But there's a funny twist. When they got the volunteers to first do the experiment in Czech, where there's no attraction effects, and then they got them to come back a couple of weeks later for an English version of the test, the effect vanished. Weeks. 2 weeks later, no more English attraction.
Yeah, I would have thought that would have to be a rapid turnaround for that kind of effect to take
I
place.
thought so too.
Did
Okay,
all those
so
undergrad
why?
students that they had the first time like go to the same party the day before and talk about the experiment or something? Like, I'm
Righto,
like,
guys.
wow.
Well, here's what they say. The authors say that this is syntactic adaptation. They say it could have decreased the magnitude of the effect in the second session to the point of disappearance. In other words, they figured out the test. They
Yeah,
figured out
okay.
what was going
yeah,
on.
Yeah.
They pointed to factors such as familiarity and attention being relevant. So it sounds to me, it's still an interesting effect. It just means, oh, I did a test. I figured out that they were looking at this thing. Now I'm alert. And that was enough to make the attraction effect disappear.
There you go.
Pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
So I liked this. I like this because it's fun. Attraction effects are certainly one of the more interesting things. And we're going to be talking a little bit early next year about an entire book dedicated to this and other linguistic illusions.
I like it a lot because it speaks to that gray area. So grammar is supposed to be hard rules that are strict, that like you have to do this every time you say a sentence. You have to put a tense on your verb. You have to put a gender on your noun. You have to do this every time. But in practice, when we look at what people actually do, there's a lot of these gray areas where people are like, yeah, that's okay. You are taller than me. You are taller than I. Yeah. And I really like to be there and prod because that is like the prime hunting territory to like take down a proper grammar police person because they often have these. And when you alert them to it, they'll sometimes be, I have a friend who's a bit of a police person, and she didn't know yet about the taller than me, taller than I. So she didn't have a strong opinion. And when I mentioned it to her, she formed a strong opinion right away.
Yeah.
But
no.
which was
because she's a rule follower now. She
Why'd you
knows the
tell her?
rule.
And I told her a rule, and she was like, "Oh, well, then I have to do this every time." And I'm like, "Well, look how beautiful this 100 flowers bloom. Look at this variation." She's like, "Yeah, no, I've just extended my territory now."
No, they're dumb.
So funny.
Well, I mean, also, it's interesting not just for, unearthing and quashing grammar police, but also it's one of those areas where our brains show a little bit of slipperiness. It's like, well, sometimes, usually I'm going to choose the version of the verb that matches with my subject, even though I don't know what a subject is, maybe. But, sometimes I'll do it a different way because, the balance of probability makes that other thing seem likely. So, that works too.
It's also cool because it gives us a window into change. Because this is probably how change happens. So if English is ever going to get rid of its subject-verb agreement, this is the areas where that will start. This is where the creeping in starts. And as someone who my native language is Swedish, we don't have any agreement on our verbs for anything other than tense. So I welcome you into the fold should you choose to take this path.
Especially if it's not stigmatized. If there's an oncoming change that gets stigmatized, then maybe that's going to get stomped down. But this one it's just below the level of awareness for many people. And this is one where you could see some movement. So
Definitely.
fun.
I've just to button this little story because we were talking, we'd moved into a kind of territory of like grammar rule lovers and that sort of thing. I've recently what's the word I'm going to use? I have expanded my thinking in terms of grammar police just a tiny bit. Obviously, we are all three of us pretty radically accepting of most things linguistically, and at times somewhat derisive or dismissive, perhaps is the best word, of people who are who like to hew close to the tradition, as it were. I found a what I have found to be an acceptable place or space for like quite staunch grammar followers, and that is people who find themselves in the role of teaching either people who have English as a second language or people who have speech problems. Full stop. Some people, not all people, but some people really, 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 really love to learn from knowing the rules, right? And so they will learn best from someone who can just top to toe be like, the rule is this, the rule is this, the rule is this, the rule is this.
100%.
So I think there is a place, I will concede that there is a place for people who have knowledge of and are probably themselves very inclined to be like strong rule followers. I would just hope that that individual has the capacity to know and to acknowledge the breadth of human expression whilst they take their preference and use it for other people for whom that preference works as well.
I think we've talked about this before, because the other side of that coin is also there is variation, but often one of them will give you a better result in a job interview, right?
Sure.
And it's all well and good to say that like all varieties of English are beautiful, all dialects are beautiful, all registers are beautiful. But I think there's also, I think we've talked about this in the show before, there's also like the hard-hitting reality of like, if you come from...
Stacey needs to get paid.
Yeah, Stacey needs to get paid. And if Stacey comes from like a working class family where she doesn't have access to those registers, it's great if maybe the school could give her a little bit more of a level playing field later when she meets a bunch of bigoted people in the workplace.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
I've done a lot of English teaching in my time. That's how I got started in linguistics. And you wouldn't be a very good language teacher if you just said, do it however, because all varieties of language are valid. Students want to know what's going to be considered
You're
correct.
The cool, fun teacher that low-key actually is the biggest destructive influence in the school environment. Just like, hey, guys, no harsh vibes. Let's just do it. Let's whatever.
You're the cool mom holding parties, right? Yeah. But what I would hope, if you're an English teacher, what I would hope you would do is be aware that variation exists. Be aware of what both versions or all the different versions mean socially, and then communicate that in a way that students like, because students are hungry for this information.